Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our Plant Health Seminar today. I'm Andreas Weiss. I'm the Secretary General of the International Seed Testing Association, and I welcome you to this series of plant health seminars. These seminars were scheduled actually as one seminar during our annual meeting, which should have been held in Cairo this year and this month, but we spread them over 3 days. And today we start with the legal perspective of seed health. You're all joined in the listen-only mode, which means that you are muted. The presentations will be recorded and available on the ISTA YouTube channel. You can also access them via our website, but you can also subscribe to the ISTA YouTube channel. You will be asked to be part of the question and answer session, and you can do so by putting your questions in the question and answer box or in the chat box, and we will put your questions to the panelists after the presentations. That has the advantage that you can ask your questions even during the presentations themselves, and they will be answered then later by the panelists. Today we have 450 people who registered to this seminar, which is quite a lot. And these participants come from 79 countries or distinct economies. That is all from my side in the moment. I would like to hand over to Valerie Grimaud, who is the chair of the ISTA Seed Health Technical Committee. Valerie.
Thank you, Andreas. Well, welcome everybody, and nice to see that so many people registered to our ISTA Plant Health Seminar. We had decided to organize this seminar as an event of the International Year of Plant Health in 2020, which has been prolonged to June 2021. Because we feel that really plant health is very important because it's strongly related to human and animal health, also to our environment. And well, the plants are the foods that we eat, and we want to preserve our environment. And we are also living in a changing world. So growing healthy plants and starting with healthy seeds is a key topic. And our seminar will focus today on the regulatory aspects. Next Wednesday, we will talk about new threats, new outbreaks. And the last session on the 19th of May, we will speak about detection methods and alternative control measures. So I'm very happy of your interest in plant health, and that so many people registered show really your interest in plant health. And so, yeah, very welcome to this seminar. And today, we will have a special thought about Terry Aveling, who passed away last December. Sorry. She was the vice chair of the Seed Health Committee, and she really invested herself a lot in organizing this seminar with us, and she had planned a presentation. So, well, these sessions are in remembering of you, Terry. Andreas, we can begin.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Yes, that was a very big loss which we had, and it was due to that virus, which is all keeping us to a virtual world in the moment. And yes, Terry was very much involved in the preparation of this seminar, so we dedicate this seminar to Terry as the previous vice chair of the ISTA Seed Health Technical Committee. Now, the seminar would have taken place in Egypt, and we welcome a guest from Egypt to give some introductory words. It is Professor Mohamed Lady from the Faculty of Agriculture of Mansoura University in Egypt. Professor Lady is specialized in seed pathology, and he's representing here also the organizer, the local organizer in Egypt. Professor Lady, your welcome words, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm honored to speak today in this event, and I hope you listen me now well. You hear me? My voice is okay? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. As I said, it is my honor to speak today in this event as a representative of our National Center Administration of Seed Testing and Certification. It is my pleasure to join you in this online webinar entitled ISTA Plant Health Seminar. And unfortunately, this event is supposed to be here in Egypt, but your safety and health is important. We hope that life back again normal. Ladies and gentlemen, good day, good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum. The International Year of Plant Health 2020 declared by United Nations is happened once or as event or occasion in our lifetime. So therefore, it is important to consider this as an opportunity to raise the global awareness on how protecting plant health to help to end hunger and to reduce poverty and to protect the environment and boost economic development, of course. When we speak about plant health, we should refer to FAO estimates that up to 40% of food crops are lost due to plant pests and disease annually. More than 1,300 pests and pathogens that affect agriculture. Those diseases cost an estimated amount of $540 billion annually. If every country tries to save part of this money, that could be income for poor farmers. It is impossible to eradicate these plant enemies of pests and diseases because once they have established themselves, managing them is time consuming and expensive. Therefore, prevention as a tool in IPM, integrated pest management, or in sustainable control is critical to avoid this devastating impact of pests and disease on agriculture, also on livelihood and food security. Of course, many of us in our organizations have a role to play that. Nowadays, while the global COVID-19 pandemic, we can see now that prevention also is better than cure. This protocol can apply to also to plant health as well through, for example, clean germplasm or seeds toward sharper relief and cutting or to reduce these losses. Creating standards and protocols for phytosanitation will enable countries to share genetic materials without spreading pests and pathogens. Because most problem with seed or germplasm transfer or transmission occur when it is exchanged between countries that don't follow similar protocol for handling and sharing. Thus, integrated means for international transfer of source plant need stronger and more consistent enforcement by national and international bodies related to agriculture. Also, improved research and diagnostic will help to prevent the spread of pests and pathogen, while also helping the research community to isolate and define key traits in the genetic material that can be used to develop better crop varieties in the future. Clean seed or clean germplasm can go along in this way toward cutting those losses. Also, it is noted that COVID-19 pandemic has brought the need to clean our germplasm into sharper relief. We can see now that prevention is better than cure. This applies also to plant health as well. By generating standards and protocols for phytosanitary that enable countries to share genetic material without spreading pests and pathogens, most problem with germplasm transfer occur when it is exchanged between countries that don't follow similar protocol for handling and sharing. Therefore, integrated measure for international transfer of source plant need stronger and more consistent, as I said before, consistent enforcement by national and international bodies related to agriculture. Finally, I would like to say thanks to ISTA for continuous improvement in productivity and the technology that meet the expanding needs of the global market. We follow in Egypt everything new and all progress. I have seen the new ISTA reference-based list is a crucial importance to provide the National Plant Protection Organization with every new and updated scientifically evidenced list of seed-associated pests. This is very, very important because I am used for a long time in my life, last 20, 30 years of my life, I am using this old annotated list of seed-borne pathogens. Now, everything now is modern and new, and a new ISTA reference-based list is generated, and we are now in developing and the progress of our activity. It is very, very nice to follow ISTA progress. Therefore, I said that curating this reference is necessary, and we must join as a researcher from all over the world to amend and support this reference list for the benefit of seed trade, international seed trade. We hope all success for this virtual online annual meeting and ISTA agenda during this month. We wish to back again to normal life and to see you all here in Egypt. Thank you for you all, and greetings on behalf of my colleagues in the National Center Administration of Seed in Giza, near Pyramid, and it is belong to the Ministry of Agriculture in Egypt. Thank you very much for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eladi, for that nice introduction. And yes, I would have liked to see the pyramids again. And
Yeah,
I enjoyed every time when I was in Cairo or in Egypt. Also, due to the fact, of course, that Egypt is one of the founding members of ISTA 1924. So
yes,
people do not believe that when you tell them, but it is the case that even African countries were in ISTA at the start of ISTA.
yes.
Thank you for your nice words, and we hope to see everybody in Egypt at a certain stage.
We hope so, inshallah.
I would like now to introduce Stephanie Blum. Stephanie is Executive Director at the North American Plant Protection Organization. Stephanie, that is NAPO. NAPO is the regional plant protection organization that represents Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And in her role as executive director, she manages the Secretariat of NAPA Human and Financial Resources while leading the fulfillment of the NAPO Executive Committee's strategy plan, yearly work program, and priority goals for North America. Stephanie was born in Mexico and raised in Guatemala, and she has an undergraduate biology degree from Universidad de Valle de Guatemala and a doctorate in etymology from the University of California, Davis. Stephanie is married to her, it says in her LinkedIn profile, best friend Ken for 36 years. And what I liked most, Stephanie, was that you join your home with your family dog, golden retriever called Fetch. I hand over to you for the first presentation on the IPPC view of Ispm 38. And I think it would be good for us if all other panelists close down their cameras during the presentation and mute. Thank you. The floor is yours, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Just want to make sure that people can see my screen.
That is the case, Stephanie.
Very good. Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is a pleasure for me to address the first session of the Plant Health Seminar on regulatory aspects of plant health, organized by the International Seed Testing Association. I thank Andreas for introducing me and taking my profile from LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Andreas. Before beginning my topic today, which is actually the International Plant Protection Convention and the Global Movement of Seeds, and specifically an overview of the International Standard number 38 on International Movement of Seeds, I would like to acknowledge first the invitation by the organizers, in particular the Secretary General of ISTA, Andreas Weiss, and all his staff and colleagues. I would also like to acknowledge the colleagues from the Standard Setting Unit at the International Plant Protection Convention Secretariat, Mr. Nersisian and Ms. Moreira, who actually invited me to present on behalf of the IPPC Secretariat. I am quite honored to be doing this on their behalf. I also would like to acknowledge from my own region here in NAPO, two experts in seeds from the United States National Plant Protection Organization, Dr. Ed Podlekis and Dr. Marina Slotina, both of which greatly assisted me in the preparation of this presentation. And finally, I would like to acknowledge all of you, Plant Health Seminar participants, and thank you for your attention in advance. So any seed health and implementation presentation should really begin by setting the stage. We know that increases in international trade present both opportunities and challenges to all of us around the world. Among the opportunities are the possibility of improving economic growth and ensuring food security. But these opportunities go hand in hand with the challenges of preventing the entry, establishment, and spread of pests that move in goods that are traded internationally. This is particularly important for seeds because this industry is truly global in nature. Some of the issues that have been brought forth by both regulatory entities and seed producers and companies alike are included in this slide, including the encumbrance by having additional phytosanitary import requirements imposed on the movement of seeds and specific requirements for the many, many pests that can be borne and transmitted by seeds. The issues having to do with inspection of small seed lots, ensuring that we understand if seeds are pathways for pests, validation, acceptance, and harmonization of diagnostic protocols, and the other issues that you see listed in this slide. This is really what sets the stage for the international harmonization on global movement of seeds. So these issues have had a long and winding road. Due to all of these concerns, both from regulatory entities and seed companies alike, in 2009, the topic of international movement of seeds was proposed to the International Plant Protection Convention as the possible topic for an international standard. 2 years later, the standard specification was approved, and a couple of years after that, the expert drafting group got together and began drafting the standard, which we now know as Ispm 38, the International Movement of Seeds. Because this is a global instrument of harmonization, the draft standard went through 2 consultations, global consultations, and finally, 8 years after the initiation of this process, the standard was approved by the Commission on Phytosanitary Measures, which is the governance body of the International Plant Protection Convention. Soon after that, many activities began in the implementation, towards the implementation of this standard. And in 2018, there was a submission for an annex to Ispm 38 that I would like to discuss with you during this presentation. I also would like to finish my presentation today speaking about possible next steps. So the scope of International Standard for Phytosanitary Measures 38 is that it provides guidance to the national plant protection organizations on how to identify, assess, and manage pest risk associated with the international movement of seeds. And it doesn't do this in isolation, but it makes use of several adopted international standards listed here that give specifics on pest risk assessment and pest risk analysis. It also helps NPPOs, gives them guidance on establishing phytosanitary import requirements, also being helped by Ispm 20, on how to conduct inspection, sampling, and testing of seeds, also making use of other adopted standards. And it says something about phytosanitary certification of seeds for export, and re-export. The scope includes all viable seeds, not just those imported for laboratory testing or for destructive sampling, but those that are planted under restrictive conditions or under field conditions, but it does not include grain for consumption or other vegetative plant parts. And if you have looked at this standard, you know that it is translated into the 6 official languages of FAO. There is also an unofficial translation into Korean. And listed on this slide, you see the different components of the standard. I have highlighted under phytosanitary measure the systems approach that I will discuss later in my presentation, and under specific requirements, information on testing, which is important to this association and to many of you. So rather than going through each of these parts of the standard, I decided to highlight some important features that this standard provides to all of us that are contracting parties of the IPPC. The standard provides definitions for seed-borne and seed-transmitted pests and provides examples of each. And this is important because the glossary of phytosanitary terms, or ISPM 5, did not have definitions for these terms. The standard also highlights the importance of using pest risk analysis to establish seeds as a pathway for pests, and it recognizes the importance of the purpose of import or intended use. I will talk about the sections of this slide that are grayed a little bit later in my presentation. So in terms of definitions, ISPM 38 defines a seed-borne pest as you see here. It's a pest that can be carried externally or internally on the seed and may or may not be transmitted to plants that grow from these seeds. A specific case of seed-borne pest is category 1A, where the pest is actually transmitted directly and infests the host plant under natural conditions. And this is called a seed-transmitted pest. Category 1B is also a seed-borne pest, but the pest is transferred to the environment, and from there it infects the host plant under natural conditions. And finally, category 1C, which is a pest carried internally or externally, but that does not transfer to the host plant under natural conditions. Very important to have these definitions. Appendix 1 of the standard also provides examples, and on this slide, you see examples of each of these three categories. Finally, we must not forget contaminating pests, which are deemed category 2 by the standard, which are non-seed-borne pests, but are found as contaminants in a seed lot, and they can be very important in the international movement of seeds. In terms of using pest risk analysis to verify that seed is a pathway, the standard reminds us that the ability of a pest to be transferred to a host and cause infestation should be carefully considered because these are really the pests that warrant regulation internationally. And it also tells us that categories 1A, 1B, and 2 should be further assessed using PRA for their ability to establish, spread, and cause economic impacts. It also highlights the fact that transmission of a pest should be under natural conditions, and Appendix 2 provides us an example of likelihood of pest groups carried and being introduced potentially by seeds. In terms of purpose of import or intended use, the standard reminds us that the purpose of use or purpose of import will impact the probability of establishment of these pests. So in other words, seeds that are destined for lab testing or destructive analysis pose a smaller risk because of their intended use than do seeds that are intended for field planting. Continuing on with the important features of ISPM 38, it recognizes the role of production practices in the reduction of seeds, and it also supports the use of systems approach to reduce the risk in the international movement of seeds. And before I move to the next set of slides, I want to remind you of the definition of a systems approach, which is contained in ISPM 5, the glossary of phytosanitary terms. And that is that it is a pest risk management option that integrates different measures, at least two which act independently and have cumulative effect. And there is a specific adopted standard on systems approach that provides guidance on how to establish one of these systems. With respect to production practices, ISPM 38 tells us that certain practices that are used in seed production may, alone or in combination, be sufficient to meet phytosanitary import requirements for seeds, and that many pest management practices to reduce pest risk during seed production, from planting to harvest, may be integrated into a systems approach. So this standard provides us a great opportunity for close collaboration with seed industry partners. In this slide, I list some of the mitigations or best practices that are traditionally used in seed production. The important point here is these need to be evaluated for their effect on attrition of risk and therefore eventually used in a systems approach. So I am a very visual person by nature, so I always like to use graphs to show what different systems can look like. So here is a graph showing a generic seed production chain where you have pre-planting, production, post-harvest, and distribution activities. And I want to show you the effect of different measures on such a system. So in green, I have indicated independent measures, and in yellow, I have indicated dependent measures. And I give you a couple of examples. As independent measures, you can have, for example, the use of certified materials and then thinning, which are unrelated to each other. And if one of them fails, the other one is not affected. So that is the beauty of having independent measures in a systems approach. Whereas having dependent measures means having actions that follow one another. For example, inspection and then treatment if the pest is found. So in a systems approach, you apply these measures throughout the seed production chain with the objective of reducing the risk as more measures are applied. Soon after the adoption of ISPM 38 began the implementation activities towards this standard, and pioneering this effort was the International Seed Federation with events in Thailand in 2017 and with events in Egypt in 2018. That same year, there were other activities at the level of regional plant protection organizations like the COSAVE workshop, that's the regional plant protection organization in South America, and also events in Australia. At the same time, seed associations, governments and industries were continuing to talk about how to implement ISPM 38 and in particular, look at a systems approach for seeds. In 2019, here in the Napo region, we had our own implementation event focusing on the Americas. I give you the link here if you want to go access the report and the presentations for that event. We had 13 countries of the Americas, 4 regional plant protection organizations, the International Seed Federation, 6 regional and national seed associations, 7 seed industry related companies, and academia joining us all in Costa Rica. And what was remarkable about this event is there was a consensus among the more than 50 participants on a statement concerning the implementation of ISPM 38, and that was that complete and successful implementation of ISPM 38 means that seed is moved between countries, with managed risk, with technically justified and predictable phytosanitary requirements, and without undue phytosanitary restrictions and delays. I want to focus the last few minutes of my presentation on the annex of ISPM 38, which is called Design and Use of Systems Approach. And note, please, this is for phytosanitary certification of seed. And the intent of this annex is to give contracting parties an alternative to the existing consignment by consignment phytosanitary certification of seeds moving in trade. It would be applicable to any and all seeds moving internationally. It would include a standardized framework of requirements, would incorporate industry practices, would incorporate quality systems for audit and verification procedures, and would result in a globally harmonized system for moving seeds in trade, but it would need multilateral recognition and acceptance in order for it to work. The latest on the ISPM annex was, it was submitted in 2018 by NAPO to the IPPC call for topics. It was given a high priority. The specification for the annex underwent one consultation in the summer of 2020 and now has been approved. There is a steward or a person in charge of moving the annex forward. They have been already identified. There is a call for experts open to conform the expert drafting group for the standards, and there is hope that they will get together in early October. And on this slide, you see the tasks that will need to be considered by the expert drafting group, including annex implementation. So the important points about this annex is that the key to successful global harmonization and multilateral acceptance of this annex really requires two paths, not just the development, completion, and adoption of this annex and its implementation, but it's intimately tied with real world experiences by countries, regional plant protection organizations that can demonstrate that the approach can work and that build trust. And in reference to these real world experiences, you see many efforts listed on this slide, and I will refer to two of them. The pilot in the United States called Regulatory Framework for Seed Health, and just say a few words of a pilot between the US and the country of Chile on the movement of seed lots, small seed lots. So REFRESH, or Regulatory Framework for Seed Health, moves away from the current system of consignment by consignment phytosanitary certification and is based on accreditation of the systems approach for a seed supply chain. It is being developed jointly by government and industry, and it has three parts. There's a development of a standard, and this is primarily the government that is working on this, and that lays out the essential elements and the roles and responsibilities for REFRESH. The manual, which is being jointly developed by industry and government, and the pilots. An important component of REFRESH is to identify the critical control points where measures can be applied to reduce the risk. And a definition for a critical control point is a step in a process where preventative measures can be applied that eliminate or reduce a hazard. And in the REFRESH standard, these are the seed supply chain critical control points that have been identified. So if we look at this one a bit more closely, what does this mean? Here is the critical control point, and here is the hazard, that you could have issues with the phytosanitary status of the seeds or the transplants. The industry practices that could help contribute to the reduction of the risk or elimination of this hazard could be the use of tested and certified seed, sanitation during transplant, and other measures that you see here. They would be coupled with regulator actions at the level of the NPPO, which would include accreditation of the testing requirements, and would be verified by audit, records review, and documentation, for example. And this would all result in the reduction or elimination of that hazard. The REFRESH model is being contemplated now by two countries together, and that is the country of Chile and the United States. In a Chilean systems approach pilot, it's quite a new activity that brings together the NPPOs of the two countries, the seed association of both countries, and the companies involved in the seed production. and involves 3 commodities, as you see here. So there is a lot of progress and a lot of hope out there. My concluding remarks are this. This fundamental paradigm shift in the way that we trade a commodity at a truly global level really represents an uphill battle. But I would say, as they say here in the United States, that there's reason to be hopeful. In other words, there is light at the end of the tunnel. The drafting of the annex will start soon. We have commitment by countries to jointly manage pest risk. We have international momentum that is building behind the adoption of a systems approach, and we have broad interest among trading partners in developing pilots. I very much thank you for your attention, and I have provided my contact information in case you want to reach out to me for follow-up. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and good day.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Maybe we can add that ISTA is an observer organization to the CPM, which is the Commission on Phytosanitary Measures, and that is the connection between IPPC and ISTA in that case. And mostly I represent ISTA over there, but that is something which could be done also by other colleagues of my organization. Thank you very much. I had one question here, but we summarized the questions at the end. Maybe that could also go to a few other people. We are coming now to our next panelist, and that is Dr. Michael Keller from the International Seed Federation. He is Secretary General of the International Seed Federation in Lyon, in Switzerland. And it's not only a neighbor of ISTA, but also an organization which was founded in 1922 at the same Congress as ISTA was founded. And we are collaborating since then as good as we can, and are also very important partners in the World Seed Partnership. Try to work there very hard for zero hunger. Michael Keller graduated from the universities in Mannheim and Bonn, where he completed a law state examination, and he pursued as a postgraduate for European law in Paris, Sorbonne. 1999, he joined the French Senate in Paris as a parliamentary advisor and moved to the Mayors Association of France later on. And between 2008 and 14, he had the post of a Director of Regulatory and Public Affairs at DuPont Pioneer in France. And during the same period, he was member of the Board of Directors of the Union Française des Semenciers and chairman of that organization's Innovation Commission. Michael, the floor is yours on the industry view of what we just heard from Stephanie. You have to unmute probably.
Yeah, here we are. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, that is fine.
It's fine. I try to do
Yes.
it like this. Okay, like this. Hope everybody can see my screen. Yeah, thanks again for the nice words, Andreas. Very happy always every year to join ISTA. We would be pleased also, it's clear, to see you in person in Egypt, and I hope to see you soon also in person, Professor, later in Egypt. I think the topic is crucial for us from the seed side, and Stephanie highlighted yet the importance also of collaboration. If I start up, try to move my slide. It's blocked. Try to move my slide. No. Like this, okay. Yeah, I would like to reset the scene for the seed sector. The important one is Professor later mentioned, and Stephanie, you are fully involved also internationally of plant health. It's crucial. plant health, what we're always saying, starts with seed health. That's important. That's this year. But there are many, many other things we need to take into account when we speak about seed and the role of seed. And what you see here, that's the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think we are all somehow engaged and need to be engaged to fulfill them within the next 10 years. That means that's about us. And seed is an absolutely essential contributor to a lot of these sustainable development goals. And I think it's very important for me when I start the talk to remind us, yeah, it's important to move seed, but it's quite more important why we need to move the seed to fulfill many of these sustainable developments, which is from no poverty to no hunger, to life on land, to the challenges of the climate change. I think this is absolutely essential to remind us about the broader picture. Second, this year is the international, it's not the international year, but it's the United Nations Food System Summit. That's about the future of agricultural production and food systems. And it is clear that from our perspective of the seed sector side, it's essential also that we are part of this discussion. And we all should be part of these discussions because it's resetting the seed. Perhaps just quickly some words about the International Seed Federation. We have members around the world. We have 60 national seed associations. Through these national seed associations, we are representing 8,000 companies, which are companies engaged from breeding, producing to trading. And this can be family-owned companies, but this can be also local-based, regionally based, or multinationals. That means that's also the diversity of our sector and also the diversity of crops they are working on. It's here 7, but it's 73 countries. We are somehow present and we have working relationship. What is our vision? And it's important that the vision of the private seed sector, that's it. Here we are, a world where best quality seed is accessible to all, supporting sustainable agriculture and food security. All what we are speaking later on moving seed, the goal is here, best quality seed to all farmers around the world. ISF as itself, we are representing the seed sector at international level, and you see here the different bodies where we are active. Very happy also here, I put the ISTA on the left side, you see it, and I put also the International Year of Plant Health, which is again extremely important, and we supported the International Year of Plant Health since the beginning and are part of the steering committee. And I'm coming back quite shortly about my first slide, because here you see for the seed sector, we took a very strong stand. We made a declaration of the seed sector about the United Nations Food Systems Summit and about our role in engaging in our sustainable development goals. And we see seed is the starting point. Seed is the starting point of agricultural production. And therefore, it's so important that we get also right the regulations concerning seed. And from pre-breeding until marketing of seed, we are very often saying potentially seed is the most regulated sector you can find worldwide, because lots of diverse regulations are applying. And we should not forget when we speak also in Ispm 38, hey, what we are living today, that's who could preview 2 years back what we are facing. And remember, 1 year back, there was lots of questions. Can we still continue to supply food in these times of COVID, where we are all sitting in lockdowns? We are still sitting in lockdowns, but the situation is better. We had all to learn with this situation, to handle the situation. And one thing is clear, it was a priority for us at that time, from the beginning, that seed can continue to move. If you don't get the seed, you have no harvest tomorrow, you have an issue with food production. And I think COVID-19 showed also the resilience and ability of all of us to adapt ourselves. Because when I'm saying all of us, we needed derogations also last year and still this year from governments around the world to do our job. And I think it was also somehow a trust builder between the private sector and the national authorities. Some seed trends, because Stephanie, you mentioned, yeah, a global seed market is heavily increasing. We are today 6-7 times more increased seed trade than 20-30 years back. That means we have figures of, but the figures are not important. But however, $71 billion we are more or less thinking today, it's the seed market. But what is more important within the seed market is the part of seed which is internationally moving, which is even quicker increasing than the overall market. Why is this happening? Yeah, we have, first of all, faster breeding processes. We have also increased plant breeding and seed production by the private sector, which is a reality. We have an increased importance also of counter-season breeding and production. Stephanie mentioned Chile. Chile is an important, therefore it's important that Chile is part of the discussions also on Ispm 38. A lot of counter-season seed production is taking place in Chile. To move the seed there and to move it out again, it's absolutely essential. That means you see that seeds is increasing, the importance is increasing, and at the same time, we need to recognize one thing: seed is moving globally. And one thing we can say, and therefore it's so important to have consistent standards. It's about what? Because there's an interdependency. No country in the world can fully supply all farmers with seeds, and they needed varieties of seed to address the challenges in the fields. Because also for us, it's important, we need to find optimal locations for seed production, for timing harvest, localized expertise. That means we have to move the seed around, because at the same time, we know no country is somehow independent when it comes up to seed supply. And here, that's for us what we are looking for. We are looking for that each farmer worldwide, subsistence farmers, smallholder farmers, has a choice of seed. And therefore, it's so important that we can address it. And how we do this? We do this through breeding, production, trading. And you see here bullets. We have research centers around the world. There are seed production sites around the world. There's distribution processing around the world. That means it's a reality that seed from pre-breeding to marketing is moving around the world. And you can take a tomato variety from pre-breeding until marketing. It can cross 7 different countries in 4 different regions of the world, and this during several years. That means you see also the importance of predictability, because investing in breeding is expensive, and you need to be sure also that at the end you can bring a solution also to the farmers in the fields. Seed health is clearly top priority for the seed sector and also for ISF. You see here the tree, and I'm very happy because that's also a kind of inclusive effort. That's the tree of the international seed sector about our key strategic objectives and sub-objectives. I will not go into these ones, but I just would like to highlight one of our key strategic objectives is to promote the efficient movement of seeds. And then you see some leaves here. I'm not showing all the leaves, but there is a leaf where we put implementation, and that's what Stephanie also mentioned. We have now this wonderful standard agreed, but now we have to implement. And since the beginning, ISF and our members are engaged in the implementation, and somehow the education and promotion of the international standard of phytosanitary measures. ISF Seed Health, I think, allow me also just to raise here, we strengthened the power, the human resources within our team, because it's such a top priority. We have now 4 persons working in our Seed Health group under the responsibility of Rose, our Seed Health manager. And I would like to emphasize here also again the importance of our collaboration since many years with ISTA on a diverse range of topics. We were found, we always said, at the same day, more or less, in the same area nearly 100 years ago. We have done a lot in common, and we will do also many things in the future. I'm coming now to the critical point, and that's where I think it's complementary to what Stephanie said. The priority for the countries is there's no spread of pests. It's normal. But at the same time, at the end, it's the same priority also for the private seed sector, because we have to provide pest-free quality seed. That's our role. That's our responsibility. That means at the end, the perspective is perhaps different, but the goal is the same. Prevent pests from being introduced and established in new areas and facilitate trade. And I think this should be the starting point of all the discussions. And you see there are yet a lot of things happening between the private seed sector and the authorities, the National Plant Protection Offices and IPPC, because only together, I think, we can reach what we are looking for, this common goal. And Stephanie mentioned, I would like just to emphasize it here, yet today, the private seed sector is heavily engaged in all what it means to work on pest risk management, from pre-planting to post-harvest. You see the diverse measures and managements yet in place within the companies. And I think that's an important set also for the future discussions we will have on topics like systems approach. That means we take this seriously with our knowledge, with our expertise. Now we have to bring the bits together between what we are doing and what the public authorities are looking for. Because it's clear today, if you look on seed and the movement of seed, yeah, it's challenging for us, because seed poses different risks depending on the intended use. That means we need also a diverse set of rules applying on seed, because the purpose of import seeds may impact the probability of establishment of quarantine pests and should be considered when conducting pest risk analysis and determining phytosanitary measures. The purpose of the seed, it's important. It's for research or it's for others. I think, therefore, we need also somehow the adapted rules. For the same pest requirements, import requirements differs from country to country and for the countries of origin of production. That means here it's what Stephanie also mentioned. Yeah, there are issues with additional declarations, which can be different. And what I mentioned, it's so important for us to have the predictability, because sometimes we don't know where the seed is going later on. We are producing seed and we don't even know where we will market the seed later on. And then imagine when we are breeding seed, we don't know yet where it will be produced, where it's going. And that's the important one, where we need the clarity. The question is also for us, which pests are a concern? When is risk a pest risk? And when is seed a pest risk? And then also last point, perhaps the adoption of stringent phytosanitary measures where only indirect methods are accepted or only phytosanitary measures is adopted. That means you see here are the question marks we need to address. And at one point we are always mentioning about, I imagine everybody knows here, ISF regulated pest list, where we are assessing somehow regulated pests. And when you look here, I take just carrots. You have number of regulated pests, 92, and seed as a pathway is only 4% of them. A pathway is not proven in 8%. That means you see also that's important, where we have to work together to get a clear picture where seed is a pathway and where seed can be seen as a threat. And therefore, it's the importance for us, this Ispm 38. That means what Stephanie mentioned. I will not spend too much time on this one because you mentioned it yet before on PRRs for seeds as pathways. Seed-borne pests. Not all seed-borne pests are seed transmitted. Differentiations between import for commercial purpose and for breeding, what I mentioned before. That's important that this is addressed. The possibility of a systems approach, yeah, and the last one, molecular and serological diagnostic methods as indirect tests. Need for a direct test to confirm presence of a viable pest. I think these are things which we have a unique opportunity now to address them and to find the right setting. We also see the opportunities with the equivalences of measures, flexibility in meeting phytosanitary requirements. Yeah, the countries are encouraged to define multiple equivalent options. I think that's absolutely important that we can move further in this direction, because this will allow us to facilitate the movement of goods internationally. And let me just quickly also then come to the systems approach, because the challenges we face today is, like you mentioned, Stephanie, consignment by consignment verification. That's tough, that's heavy. Increasing number of specific pest requirements. Import requirements can change quickly. As I mentioned, we need predictability. Requirements are not always for pests associated with seeds as a pathway. And I think that's important for me. It needs to be linked to seeds as a pathway. Re-export, challenges we are fulfilling when re-exporting, and this movement of small lots. Yes, and a system approach is a possible solution. It's a good solution. And since many years, we are engaged in the discussions. That means to approved companies produce system approach seed. Multilateral acceptance. I think that's exactly somehow what we are looking for. Phytosanitary certificates without specification of individual pests. I think these are really things which we are looking for as a seed sector, which will help us to move the seed, and also, again, you see it always at the right side to fulfill our role with regard to the sustainable development goals. And somehow you see here, this would be the system from approved companies produce system approach seeds, and then, well, it can move. It can move globally. And I think this would be somehow what we are looking for. You mentioned in your slide, Stephanie, and therefore I took it up quickly. Yes, we have also a pilot project yet with the ISF system approach, multilateral pilot with 4 countries, Chile, US, Netherlands, and Australia, and planting for production under pilot, hopefully now in 21. Also to learn, also to work together, also to work to build trust. The more we have this kind of knowledge and expertise accumulated during the next months and years, the better I think we can move forward together. That means our long-term vision on systems approach, its approval relied on independent auditing of quality management systems. It's generating phytosanitary certificates, and pest management should be based on the use of a documented quality management system, and best practices would focus on the pest which seed has been identified as a pathway under field conditions. And I think that's absolutely critical for us. As a conclusion, first of all, I think, and having Stephanie here, it's about trust. It's about building trust together to move forward together. We have the same common goals. I think now we have to find the ways to move this together. For us, important, IPPC recognized the necessity for international cooperation, absolutely critical, in the interest of the seed sector to find mechanism that ensures the safe movement of seed. And again, you see yet what we are doing today, which is showing our responsible way of doing. And I think many things we can take over in future discussions of the systems approach. International treaty is essential. It needs to be part when we are speaking also on delivering on the sustainable development goals to protect agriculture, human health, and the environment. I think we are in a great moment. We live in difficult times with COVID-19, but we are in a great moment to build further on the implementation on Ispm 38 and on a system approach. With this, thanks again for inviting me, and back to you, Andreas.
Thank you, Michael, for that interesting presentation. There are a few questions now coming up, and don't hesitate to put your questions in the question box. We are looking forward to the discussion of the questions as well. I would now like to invite our last speaker for today. It is Dr. May Kanokwan Shortchoy, and I will not learn that in my whole life, May, to pronounce that probably correctly. She is Executive Director of the Asia Pacific Seed Association. May made her PhD at Mahidol University in biotechnology. The university is one of the oldest and largest medical-oriented universities in Thailand. And today it offers a wide range of knowledge fields from natural sciences, liberal arts towards engineering and technology. May started her life at the Monsanto company, where she worked nearly 7 years, and then joined the Asia Pacific Seed Association nearly 3.5 years since now, and first as Deputy Director and in 2019 as Executive Director. ISTA and APSA have a lot of common things together. We have a memorandum of understanding, and we are working together in several fields. a little later this month, I think there's a meeting for the Lower Mekong Initiative where we will take part. And we hope that COVID-19 will be over soon and we can travel and can do much more good things together. I hand over to you, May, for your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I could not share my screen. May I ask Oika to help projecting the screen, please?
I need a second, I will do.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andres, for a good introduction, and thank you very much, ISTA, for organizing this very webinar. Actually, this is the first time for APSA to be invited to be as a to share our work in this type of the seminar. And so here, I think everyone already have very good information about what is Ispm 38 and also why we do need to work together, and that's a very good presentation from Stephanie and Michael Keller. Here I just would like to highlight example of the initiative that has been done by APSA and our key stakeholders in Asia Pacific region, and that relating to the implementation of Ispm 38. So here, the content of the presentation actually is the work of our APSA Standing Committee on International Trade and Quarantine. Next, please. So just a little bit at a glance for who is APSA. So APSA is actually a regional seed association, and as shared with Andres, we have so many companies join as our members, and currently we cover around 53 countries inside and outside Asia Pacific region. We also have our national seed associations in Asia Pacific region as a member, and also non-profit organization, as well as the government agencies. And so our company members, actually 50% of those, they have all the facilities inside their company, also called integrated seed companies. And they start from R&D, they also have production, and also they do the commercialization. So I would say that in our association, we represent a voice of the industry or private sector in Asia Pacific region. Next, please. So when we work for the seed industry, so we start thinking what would be the priority for our association to help supporting also the capacity of the public sector, and also be a voice of the private sector. So similar to other regional seed associations and also international organizations relating to seed in Asia Pacific region, we also put very high priority on the first is on the intellectual property right and plant variety protection. But in this webinar, I would not focus. But of course, if you would like to hear more resources about this, please go and visit to our website. That we compile so many information and resources related to this topic. The next priority is the thing that I would like to share the practice in our presentation today. Okay, which is the trade of the quality seeds, and also that's the mission of APSA. So in here, I think it's very clear when everybody hear about the seed movement, right? And so here I just would like to highlight again the processes and many documentations that one company needs to prepare, or even one breeder, or if you need to launch one commercial variety. So let's say in this picture, it's just, let's say this is just a movement of one commercial variety of vegetable seed. So starting from research and development, right? So if you look into the green line, this is the germplasm movement. So in order to produce or create the new line developed by the breeders, of course, they need to access the germplasm from so many sources. So that's how they need a very good process of phytosanitary also. And you can see that the arrows come from many countries, right? And Once they develop one line, they can also distribute to many countries also for the production. And then once they finish the production, the seeds also can be moved to another country for the processing, and then eventually get packed in another country and get sold also in another country. So this is example, just only one consignment or a movement of one commercial variety. And you can imagine how much work one company has to do or prepare if also we face the how to say uncertain in terms of the regulatory in the phytosanitary measures. And you can see here the data also from WTO has reported in 2019 that actually the total value in Asia Pacific that has generated through the movement of seed trade is accountable for 14% of the total global seed trade. And this number is projected to be higher also in 2023, and that's from another source of the information that I also put here as a reference. Next, please. So next, as I share as an example of only a movement of one crop, right, or one variety of vegetable seed, and see here actually this data we received through Dr. Rose from the International Seed Federation. So ISF has collected the data, right? They have the ISF regulated pest, and so here what they have done is that they compile the regulated pest from many countries in the world, and you can see the crops here also. And very surprisingly, you can see the number that around 77% of the regulated pests now today could not even be proven that the seeds is the pathway, or as a concept of Ispm 38 explained by Stephanie also in this webinar. And here, when you think about the figure that I have just presented, right, you can see that if this happen more and more, this is just only example from how many crops, the crops show on the table here. And what about the big commodities that we are dealing right now for the seed movement? Next, please. All right, so this is the source of the information. If you would like to search for more, ISF has provided a very good database on ISF regulated pests, and also the guide of the Ispm 38. Next, please. All right, talking about the framework. So this is why once we know the kind of the issue that we are dealing with right now, right, from the information that we have from International Seed Federation and other organizations that have provided. So we inside APSA we formed the group of experts called Standing Committee on International Trade and Quarantine. So in this group, actually, we invited our stakeholders, also from ISF, from other association in Asia Pacific. Later on, I will share you, for example, CropLife Asia and APARI, to join also in this expert group. Next, please. So the way we work in this group is actually the group of experts. So they will help to support to promote the global and regional seed trade policy alignment, especially the work that we need to align with our key stakeholders, and build a capacity for NPPOs and seed industry on the seed trade policy, referring to ISPMs, and be a channel to address phytosanitary and seed trade related issues affecting the regional and global seed movement. So right now we have our expert team to coordinate with also other national seed associations inside APSA and also International Seed Federation to keep sharing the talking points and the information for our members to get updated on the changes. Next, please. Okay, so in order to work, we would like to make sure that we have very good collaboration between NPPOs and also the private sector, right? So that's why we also start including Asian Pacific Plant Protection Convention. So this is similar to the organization that Stephanie represents, right? That's NAPO, but here in Asia Pacific, we have APPC. So we start to include or engage the APPC starting from the last year, because we would like to form a better forum of engagement, and we would like to have a forum for the private sector to bring the thoughts to the NPPO to ISTA forum. So that's why the result announced today that we have from the phyto expert consultation, we also share with APPC. And you can see here that 25 countries in Asia Pacific region also members of APPC. Next, please. So here is just share you why we collaborate with APPC. So if you see here the yellow highlighted mission of APPC is actually the key focus of the private sector that we would like to join the effort to support APPC. Next, please. Okay, so talking about the just example of the forum that we see that this is a very good forum that we can bring the voice from the private sector to be heard or to be informed by NPPO, and among NPPO from different countries, they can also exchange their practices, and that we have monitored year by year the action that we receive from this expert consultation can really bring a good change or a big impact on the way we collaborate with NPPO in different countries in Asia Pacific region. So recently, just in 2019, we agreed together with the NPPOs who join in this meeting that, okay, we would like to keep this forum as the forum for public-private partnership to discuss. This would be kind of still formal in a way, but say, for example, NPPOs, they can also share the practices among themselves, and the focus is on the Ispm 38 implementation. And we also share the new initiatives from the seed industry, and not only in our region, we also bring the experts from outside the region to share the initiative. Next, please. Okay, so similar to what Michael has highlighted, and also Stephanie has also highlighted in the issues, the challenges that we have. So we have run also the question, or like the questionnaire to our NPPO and our stakeholder from our national seed associations. And here, this is the summary that we have received from the expert consultation when they talk about the key challenges in Asia Pacific region, talking about the seeds movement. So the first one is not all countries have adequate resources to have seed-specific programs. And so we monitor and we see that, well, different country has different capacity and capability of doing things also, because you can see that by geographic, right, Asia Pacific has very high diversity in terms of the capacity and also capability of each country. So the next one is the communication of the regulated test. Sorry, So the next one is the communication of the regulated pest between countries and the regulated pest update by country. We still see a lack of the communication. However, year by year, we help to link with NPPO to share more information that they share with us, the update information. And the re-exporting process, you already seen the example why it is still challenging step for us or for the seed movement. The last one is capacity of pest risk analysis and testing facilities of some countries and PPO, and so that would impact to the lead time of seed shipment. So these challenges we still put in our agenda, and year by year we get better support also from NPPOs. Next, please. Okay, this is also very good example. We have run this survey also with our NPPOs who joined in the expert consultation in 2018. At that time, we actually would like to follow up and monitor on the implementation and capacity of NPPO in each country to implement Ispm 38. And at that time, we found the result that the key challenges are testing methods, the PRA process, seed sampling guideline. And so from the result from that year really helped us to plan very well how can we help supporting the countries inside Asia Pacific region. And so we set the agenda for the 5th Phyto Expert Consultation and the 6th Phyto Expert Consultation to tackle these challenges. Next, please. Okay, so if you can see here, well, unfortunately, the 6th Phyto Expert Consultation, we could not organize as a face-to-face. So we try our best to bring the topic, you know, continue our dynamic, but in the virtual platform. And this year, again, we will do a virtual meeting with NPPOs as the 7th Phyto Expert Consultation. So though we organize as the virtual platform, we still get very good collaboration from the NPPOs. And I would say that the information from the 5th and the 6th all together, we could actually put into a very good PPG project, which we work with APARI, CropLife Asia, ISTA, and International Seed Federation to prepare a proposal by using the comments or the results from the previous expert consultation to put in the scope of the PPG. And eventually we got an approval from STDF to work on the PPG, and that would be the work plan for us in this year moving forward. Next, please. Just a little bit about STDF. I think most of you may be aware of who is a Standards and Trade Development Facility. So we are really happy that this eventually, you know, approved by the STDF to move on, because this is very important to ensure that we provide good resources for NPPO to implement ISPM 38. And so I think I would not read through this, but I think that you know, you can also look for the information of the Standard and Trade Development Facility, which is actually supported by the fund. The donor is also WTO, and this is for SPF capacity building. Next, please. Okay, so the scope of the project that we are going to work the proposal in this year with the NPPO who are under our pilot countries. So the first is we would like to identify gaps between infrastructure and capability of NPPOs, and that would be done through the questionnaire to the NPPO. And so we would like to also create a database where all information related to import phytosanitary requirements for the countries in the region can be published or recorded for the region, so that it will be easy for private sector also to see the information in the same hub or same specific site. And consolidation of portal or regulated pest, so that also would be under the same initiative of the, you know, consolidation of the database. And we would like to help translating the database to be available into English language for some countries. And exploring synergies to work to the work carried out and with the pest risk surveillance database. This also we would like to first explore the current status or the current capacity of the NPPOs, and we will set the priority based on each country, and we will see what we can help in terms of pest risk surveillance database. And advocate the adoption of international standards and initiatives such as ePhyto. So that's really clear, and you can see that this is, I think this is the same initiative also with International Seed Federation and also in from NAPO. Promoting the involvement in investment of the private seed sector. So in here, actually, we would like to create the forum also that any support that the government require, the private sector is ready to provide the support through our organization or the stakeholders who join in this project. The last one is facilitate the lab accreditation program for the independent private laboratories by NPPO. So this is very important to support to enhance the capacity of NPPOs in the countries that they really need to implement the new methods. Next, please. Okay, so this is just to show you the project partners. As I said, everything is already approved. We are ready to move forward, and yes, why we think that this is a good example of working together. You can see that we achieved this through a very good collaboration. So APSA only, we cannot make this happen for sure. So we work with APARI. So APARI lead the submission of the PPG to STDF, because APARI, we identify and we found that APARI has done this before. So we use their expertise on this while we are working together to develop the proposal. So from the private sector side, we have, of course, APSA, CropLife Asia, presented by Ms. Delma, International Seed Federation, presented by Dr. Rose, American Seed Trade Association, that's presented by Abigail, and our Committee of International Trade and Quarantine. And so you can see that we put also the synergy of so many, the initiative from the like-minded organization to drive the same initiative together, so that the impact is huge when we come together. And that's how I think we can move forward as a team, and also get very good support from from 7 countries that you can see that they already agreed to participate in the pilot as a pilot countries. So that's our Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. For Laos, we are still waiting to get the letter of support. Myanmar, we already received. The Philippines, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And next, please. Okay, so our milestone, as I said, so we already set really clear plan. So this year, the focus would be to understand the current capacity of our NPPOs. So just to check the usage of that database, pet risk analysis capacity, ePhyto, laboratory accreditation program, and also in our expert consultation this year, we will share the results and discuss the result. And the result also from the consultative workshop this year, we also will use that to develop the proposal. So we are really excited to see the result and develop together a full-length project proposal by the end of 2021. And we are also pleased to share with our stakeholders to see this progress as well. So you can keep, we will keep everyone updated also through our newsletter and also our social media from APSA. Next, please. Okay, so this is just to show you example of the public-private partnership. I would not say that STDF project is the first one in the region that, but of course it's the first one that we work together as a big team from many organizations. But so you can see that this is examples also done by each country, that they have their own public and private partnership between the association and the government. So from the Philippines, they successfully removed 14 regulated pests, and that's the work done by CropLife Philippines and the NPPO in the Philippines. And the next one is the regional consultation on the Thailand new import condition regulations, that the work has been done through ISTA, Thailand Seed Trade Association, CropLife Asia, and of course support by ISF and APSA to bring the comments to the new import conditions. And the lab accreditation program in Thailand through a collaboration from ISTA, APSA, and also CropLife Asia. And here also we get very good support from the committee in International Seed Federation. So there are also more initiatives done by the National Seed Associations. For example, the progress that they work together from China and also India, that they work with their NPPO, that's to solve the issue on the new regulation on TOBR-FB. Next, please. So the key takeaways here that we would like to share, and this is also a voice from our International Trade and Quarantine Committee. So the first is, please be aware or informed that global phytosanitary regulation of seed movement is becoming more and more restrictive. Governments should only regulate quarantine pests and seeds where seeds is actually a pathway, or according to Ispm 38. And you can already see the information I share in this presentation. And of course, they need to have very good risk mitigation when we do the pest risk analysis. And of course, here we would say that more advocacy, education of industry and NPPOs is needed to ensure seeds gets to growers when they need it. So we will make sure that eventually it would not impact the food security. And you can see that also the learning when the pandemic or COVID-19 hit many countries, and the first thing that we got is the shortage of the seed supply. And yeah, APSA ITQ is here to help. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much. So I would like to, so more information you can see on also the resources provided in the presentation.
Thank you very much, May, for the nice presentation and the regional view on ISPM 38. I would like all panelists to join us for the question and answer section. It is not an awful lot of questions which came here, but I will read them, and there are a few also maybe which can be answered by Valerie in that case. First one was, does phytosanitary license required for seed import or export? That is a general question, probably going to Stephanie.
Thank you, Andreas. Would you be able to repeat the question, please?
I am able. Does phytosanitary license is required for seed import or export?
Okay, not sure I understand what a phytosanitary license is. I would think we are speaking about phytosanitary certification.
Yes, probably.
Thank you very much. And the phytosanitary certificate is a tool that we use in international trade of plant products and other regulated articles. And it is an attestation by the exporting country that the commodity that's being exported is, it gives assurances to the importing country that it is either free of pests, or if it has a pest, those pests have been successfully treated or mitigated. So yes, a phytosanitary certificate is used for all international trade and for seeds, of course. And the interesting thing about the ISPM 38 Annex is it wants to move away from the use of phytosanitary certification on a consignment by consignment basis. It wants to use phytosanitary certification to certify the systems approach process of producing seed. And this will greatly facilitate the movement of seeds worldwide. Of course, it requires close collaboration, as May said and Michael said, between seed industry and the regulatory authorities, so that we can build trust in each other's processes and make this happen for the world. Thank you very much. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Andreas,
yeah, Michael.
Yeah, thanks. Because that's exactly the point we try also, May, to emphasize. At the end, each time a seed is crossing a border, somehow you need a passport. It's like having a passport to go somewhere. And the point is, and that's exactly where, so you mentioned it, what we're looking for is that we can get some more consistency when we are asked each time we are crossing the border into the system. That's it. To have then a passport which is recognized everywhere, this would be the perfect thing.
Mm-hmm. Next question was coming. The main challenge we face in India is the acceptance of accredited private labs results for phyto issuing authorities. How do we address that issue? That's a good question, and there's a core question to that which came in. our laboratory improve their seed health units? Maybe we can answer the first one first. The main challenge in India is the acceptance of accredited private labs for result of issuing authorities. Who wants to answer that one?
First, we need to understand first, I think we need to really understand what is the key challenges, right, mentioned here. Is it due to the lead time or the capacity of the government to accredit the private sector?
Yes, I think that is the case here. It is not about an ISTA accreditation. I think it's the national one.
Correct. Yeah.
I think it's on the recognition or accreditation of the lab so that it can issue official certificates. No?
Well, actually,
that's what
I think here maybe
question.
Maybe Stephanie can comment more, but I believe that this is still an authority of NPPO to issue the certificate. And there is a new Ispm also releasing, right? I think Stephanie can add more also on the authorization of the third party laboratory, yes. The Ispm, yeah.
Thank you, May, and thank you, Valerie. If I may, Andreas, I would like to make some comments about the question from our colleagues in India. And I can use examples from my region because I know my region best of all. As May rightfully says, a laboratory is accredited by a national plant protection organization and allowed to perform certain functions on behalf of the National Plant Protection Organization. So those laboratories need to work very closely with their national plant protection organizations. And at least here in North America, we have manuals, we have training requirements, we have program-specific audits, so that that trust is built between the National Plant Protection Organization, which is ultimately responsible for ensuring that pests don't move across borders, and that laboratory or laboratories in the country that are conducting the tests to actually prove that the seed is not a pathway, for example, or that the pest is not present in that commodity. A slightly more complex issue is what happens when laboratories need to be trusted between two countries. So you avoid unnecessary testing in the importing country. So the exporting country performs a test, the information goes on the phytosanitary certificate, and then the importing country feels compelled to do another test. So that is also a very important issue, and that is building trust and accrediting those laboratories across importing and exporting countries. Thank you very much.
Maybe I can just add some information. We also have this sort of organization in France with authorized labs who can issue official analysis. But after, like you said, all trusting way with the NPPOs, and something which is very important is also for them to participate to proficiency tests, just to prove that they are working in the way which is expected.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, thank you, Valerie. If I may take a few more minutes, somebody mentioned tomato brown rugose fruit virus. That is a big problem for our region here in North America. And NAPO now has a project where we are trying to validate protocols for tomato brown rugose fruit virus. And not only that, but do a ring test in laboratories in North America so that we can choose which of the diagnostic protocols we feel most confident in at the North America level, and then use those laboratories and that ring test to build trust in North America so that we can improve the international movement of seeds that transmit tomato brown rugose fruit virus. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's very good example, actually. So Stephanie, maybe we need to have you also in our express consultation to learn from the NAPO.
I would be delighted to join May. Thank you very much.
That's great.
It's
Thank you.
also something which is very important for us at ISTA, where we validate our methods based on performance criteria and with interlaboratory tests. And when afterwards we provide proficiency tests to the lab just for them to know if they are how they are performing the tests. It's very important worldwide. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that was answering the question probably also on how a laboratory improved their seed health units. That is participating also in proficiency tests. And Valerie, thank you for mentioning ISTA's proficiency test capabilities here. There's a thank you from Adriana Moreira to you, Stephanie, for the very well done overview. And it doesn't say that you had to give her the $5 next time you are in Rome, but I think that is mentioned there as well. So a compliment from your colleagues. That's always good, better than the other way around. Michael, do you think, that's a question for you, in future we will be able to move seed around the world safely with less bureaucracy? What a good question.
Nothing against bureaucracy. I worked also in the public sphere before, as you mentioned earlier, but I think it's not about somehow bureaucracy. It's just that we bring in the predictability and to simplify the things and to build the trust between the countries. Because what's just Stephanie mentioned with is a county trusting the other county when they're accrediting a third party. That's exactly now these questions. We need to build these standards. We can all feel comfortable. The goal is to move safely seed around the world. That's it. And we do, and you see, May mentioned a lot of initiatives we have taken because it's so important for us to build, to show to NPPOs and to regional authorities how we function today, what we can provide, and that we can build this mutual trust to move forward. Less bureaucracy, yes, somehow, but the goal is really that we can move safely seed around the world.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's a question from the Philippines. Thank you very much for the informative presentations. May I ask if we can use Ispm 38 as a basis of phytosanitary certification and inclusion in the additional declaration? There's also a corresponding question, which is Ispm 38 implemented in all countries? Maybe that goes also to Stephanie and to Michael.
Okay. Absolutely. On the first question, the seed standard gives more specific focus on the movement of seeds and the phytosanitary certification for seeds. But there are other adopted international standards that speak about phytosanitary certification in general. So both of them should be used in concert to look at phytosanitary certification for seeds and the information that should be included in the additional declaration. With respect to the second question, you see that ISPM 38 was adopted by the Commission not too long ago. That was in 2017. And I think great efforts have been made towards making the standard known and towards instructing people at different levels, not just regulatory, but academia, seed associations, regional plant protection organizations, etc., on the implementation of this standard. I think there's a lot more work to be done, and I think an event such as this one really, I see that we have 225 folks attending this plant health seminar right now. So that's great. COVID has made us stay home, but somehow has provided us an ability to connect remotely. And I think events such as this will continue to promote the implementation of the standard. Thank you very much.
Okay. One of the next questions, that when we import seed from the US, both seed inspections and crop inspections are mandatory according to the PQ order. But USDA says when we have crop inspection for particular, there's no need of seed inspection. So we are stuck with importing seeds. I think that is a very technical question. And I'm not sure if we can answer that without more information, actually.
I fully agree with that, Andreas. The fact that I represent the plant health interests of the 3 countries in North America does not mean that I know the specific procedures within the NPPO of the United States. So I would prefer not to say anything that would be incorrect. So I would prefer not to comment on that question. Thank you.
Yeah. Any prospects for system-based approach to movement between countries of wild collected wild species seeds for conservation purposes and seed banks? And there was that was coming from Kew Gardens, as far as I could see that. And there was a second one is a phytosanitary certificate attached to wild collected seeds worth the paper it's written on. Wow.
Yes.
Well, that was the answer.
Did anybody else? No. Did anybody else want to comment on that?
Wild species.
Well,
You have the floor.
The scope of Ispm 38 includes technically all species. The focus tends to be on seeds that are moved for commercial purposes, as we have all been discussing during this seminar, because as Michael and May pointed out, we focus on seeds that will then grow crops that will then feed our populations. But you're right, there are other seeds out there that are moved. Technically, the standard includes all of them, but perhaps not much attention is being paid to these other seeds. My suggestion would be that you approach the IPPC Secretariat and ensure that these issues are being considered, particularly now when the annex on Ispm 38 is going to be drafted. It's going to be happening in October, so any and all information that this expert drafting group needs to consider, this is the moment to provide it to the IPPC Secretariat for consideration. So that would be my advice. I don't want to comment on the value of phytosanitary certificates other than to say they are a tool to protect, to promote international trade, but also to do it in a safe manner. Are they the panacea or the silver bullet to avoid risk? No, they are not, but I think they have their place in the work that we do as plant health professionals. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting in a lot of questions now. Maybe we cannot answer all of them. One question was very important. I can't hear the words of the Q&A section. I don't know why, but we are putting the records on the video, and it will be published on the YouTube channel of ISTA. Is Ispm 38 implemented in all countries? Good question as well. Michael, maybe that can come from your side.
When there was, and Stephanie nicely reminded us from where we are coming when we started to discuss on Ispm 38 many years back, and we were yet happy, and let's be frank, that we had somehow the agreement at IPPC on the standard in 2017, because it was rather quick when you compare it with, I think, other standards and other discussions. Now, from there on, to go to the implementation, we always said we have a dream to have an implementation within perhaps, yeah, at that time we said 2017, perhaps 2023, 4 or something like this, to have it in reality implemented into the countries. But I think that's a long way. I think that's where we are here in. That's where, therefore, from our side, and I may mention it really importantly, the seed federations around the world are engaging with their authorities on the importance to move forward, to address the topic, to find at national level also the way to think on the implementation, because this is something it cannot only be done now as we have done it at international level. Now it's go to the national level, and the discussions are somehow we are in the middle. But I think we need to keep a dream. We need, these times of COVID, be optimistic. I cannot give a date when it will be implemented, national level everywhere, but will be, Stephanie, when? Next year? No, I'm kidding. some more years than that. But
yeah, probably there's also a perspective question here. Is there any need of phytosanitary certification after implementation of Ispm 38? That is going very much in the future.
Yes, my only comment there, Andreas, would be that if we just look at Ispm 38 without considering the annex, the answer to the question would be, we have a systems approach in place to reduce the risk of pests, seed-transmitted pests moving in trade, but we still need phytosanitary certification. If we consider Ispm 38 and the annex to Ispm 38, where the objective is not only to have measures that are integrated into a systems approach to reduce the risk, but to accredit that systems approach in a phytosanitary certificate, then the phytosanitary certificate focuses on the process itself, not on each test. And that greatly will facilitate international movement of seeds in a safe way. So that is coming in the future. I think it's going to be, if it's multilaterally accepted, will do what International Standard on Phytosanitary Measures 15 does for wood packaging material. It allows the safe movement of wood packaging material in international trade. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got another question, or another one or two questions before we come to an end. Some thoughts, if possible, how's the initiatives for research on trying to clearly outline the pest, seed transmitted, seed-borne, etc. diseases? Which are the perspectives on this field? Is there any initiative from industry? It's also important to mention the point on viable pests and the methods of detection. That is correctly mentioned here, which is also a theme on the webinar series at a later date. Michael and maybe Valerie on that one.
Michael, do you want to start also?
Yeah, you can start. For me, it was not super clear the question. Please start. I will then
Okay.
come back.
That's true that when we are both at ISTA for the ISTA reference best list and also the ISF regulated best list, when we are looking at the knowledge that we have on the pests, and we are very easily, we have a yes, very easily we have a no, but we have many pests for which pathway is not proven. And that's where really we need some studies and some scientific studies to be able to know, is it a yes or is it a no? And we have some examples where in literature, for example, we find, oh, it's seed is a pathway, it's seed transmitted. Yes, but it was in a such artificial laboratory way that we cannot say yes, we say not proven, because we are really not sure that in nature, natural conditions, it occurs. So for us, it's very important to try to push to have this sort of scientific studies to really know if seed is a pathway.
Thank you, Valerie. Michael, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the important one is just what we're always saying, who knows the seed which somehow we are working on during many years best. I think it's also what we're always saying, the seed sector itself, and therefore the expertise we have and we can bring in also to clarify, to go as far as possible to clarify if seed is the pathway or not. I think that's exactly where we are saying that's important, that we can bring in this expertise, this knowledge. Our folks are in the fields, our folks are working on the seeds during many years, and I think that's the important one we would like to bring in also into the discussions.
And maybe a final question, is there any possibility to infected seed movement between countries to use as positive controls in seed testing under ISPM 38? That is a testing question, and that is a very good question, because you need to know what you're looking for if you want to test for it. Is that possible? Proficiency tests say yes, it is. Valerie, you want to incorporate?
Even for proficiency tests, it's advisable to be able to move infected seeds or contaminated seeds in different cases to do some research and to be able to do some proficiency tests. But that's true that over the different proficiency tests that we are organizing at ISTA or in my lab, sometimes we really face difficulties from countries to import just a little sample to do their proficiency test. And they are completely stuck. They say, I cannot import it, so I cannot have positive control. I cannot assess the proficiency of my lab, but I have to test in my lab for this disease. So yes, if there was a way to facilitate movement of seeds for research, which are not for planting, it would really increase. So,
Stephanie?
I just wanted to add that this conversation about the seeds for proficiency testing and specifically infected seeds is tangentially addressed in ISPM 38 when they talk about purpose of import. If those seeds, if they are infected seeds or seeds for specific tests, are being imported into a lab for analysis there, and they go no further, then they pose a negligible risk to the importing country. Whereas if we're talking about seeds that are going to be planted widely, then we are talking about having to have a closer look at what's happening with those seeds. So I think ISPM 38 opens the door for those discussions when it talks about purpose of purpose of import or intended use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, there were a lot of other compliments and Adriana also mentioned all the other participants with very well prepared presentations. So May and Michael, you have to give her $5 as well when you enroll next time. I do not want to end without thanking you all for your contribution to this nice first part of our Seed Health on Plant Health Seminar. And the next session will be in a week's time on Wednesday, May 12th. And I learned during the 15th CPM session just a few weeks ago that that may be from 2022 on the day of plant health. We are a little bit quicker than IPPC in that case. We do it -1 year at the probably a day of plant health. And that will be a reoccurring thing, not only a year of plant health. The topic will be plant protection in a changing world, and session 2.1 will deal with new threats, outbreaks, and regulations. You find the program on the ISTA website, and you can register for this one and for the last one, which is on Wednesday 19th. That will be the end of this session. And thank you very much, and take care. Have a good evening, good day, or wherever you are. Thank you very much.